Hello, guys, and welcome to Tech Talk with Ethan. And today I'm here with Robert Richardson, who is a freelance line designer. Um, and thank you for joining me today, Robert.
Thank you for having me, Ethan.
So we'll begin here as just to have you introduce yourself and tell us a little about what you do.
Okay. My name is Robert Richardson. I've been doing this since 2007 in some aspect of live production. I started off doing multicam video work, doing editing, doing ENG, a lot of news stuff, going out into the field. I actually went to the same high school as Ethan way back in the day, Renaissance. We didn't have the nice fancy theater. We actually built one, myself and the technical director at the time, Brian Meal. We put in electrics, we put in a front of house position, we put in all this kind of stuff. And we made a little theater out of a cafeteria, and that was a really fun time.
Wow.
It was definitely something different. Post high school, I went to Long Beach City College for a short time. I worked with Chrissy Munich there, and she was my lighting teacher. I got to assist her on several good projects, but my favorite was definitely Streetcar Named Desire, because I got to assist in line design and program that one. That was really fun. We had a lot of really cool elements. Learned what it's like when the scenic designer shifts the plot 3 feet, so the lighting plot is all hung 3 feet in the wrong direction. And then we had to fix that. That was a lot of fun. After that, I went over to the James Armstrong's Theater in Torrance off of her referral. And I worked there for about a year and a half. I started as basic hand, and I moved myself up to stage manager and was leading crews for all variety of events there. Right out of graduating high school, I always was kind of part-timing at the Long Beach Performing Arts Center as well. I was working there mostly as an electrician, basic load-ins, load-outs kind of a deal. You show up, you got a head, you do your job, there you go. Over the time, they kept calling me more and more. I kept saying yes and yes, and about a year and a half into working at Torrance, they wanted me there way more regularly. So I started getting like 32 to 40 hours a week there. After about a year at that and doing both, it was kind of tough. So they offered me full-time employment, and I took it. So then I was there as their full-time master electrician, primarily at the Terrace Theater, but also in the Long Beach Arena, the Beverly O'Neill Theater, and a couple of other smaller venues that they have inside of the space. I was doing that for the last 4 years. And right before the whole pandemic kicked off, I decided to stop doing full-time there, because the entire time that I was full-time there, as most of us do, I think, you take jobs when you're not working there. So when I wasn't working my hours at the Long Beach Convention Center, I would go to different nightclubs or different bars, and I would work as a lighting programmer for bands. I worked at the Echo, I worked at the Lodge Room, I worked at a couple of different other places. A lot of fun, a lot of driving.
Yeah.
And also doing small theater shows here and there. I worked at the Long Beach Playhouse. I worked for Little Fish Theater Company over in San Pedro. I did design their Festival of Play, I believe. It's Pick of the Vine, I think is what they called it. So I did a couple of those and learned a couple of new tricks over there. But the freelance work and the full-time work at the same time was kind of leaving me no time to sleep. And I'm very appreciative of everything that the Long Beach Performing Arts Center was able to offer me as far as a career and all the things that I learned from them. But I realized that in order to go where I wanted to be, and to be the designer and the production electrician that I wanted to end up being, that I needed to move forward and not just do it in one venue, but do it in many different venues. So I moved myself into the freelance market. Unfortunately, this happened to coincide right with the pandemic. So I was on a gig in March, and on that day was the day that we got our order that 50 people or more was no longer allowed. And then I saw 2 months worth of fully booked work disappear overnight. And that was a very interesting feeling.
Yes.
But,
My next question is, talking a pandemic, we're in a pandemic and a lot of us out of work, which is very, very unfortunate. And hopefully we can get back to that soon. What have you been up to during the quarantine?
Well, it's been very interesting. This has been probably the longest period of time since I was about 15 years old where I wasn't working on a project of some sort, being at a school till 8 or 10 p.m. working on theater or production work or something like that. So it was very, at first, difficult to find out what to do with all of this unscheduled time. I found that having a better work-life balance was actually really important. So I've been cooking at home a lot more. I've been riding my bike for exercise. On the work front, though, as far as keeping my skills sharp, I've been going through a lot of online trainings. There's a lot of good training right now online, and for a while, a lot of it was free. It's still pretty reduced rate. But
Yeah.
you can get online training in pretty much anything you want. So I did a lot of courses through Chicago Fly House for their rigging trainings and learning more about counterweight systems and load balancing for like large suspension of bridles and how to calculate bridle math therein. I've been going through a book on that as well, written by Harry Donovan. It's kind of like the rigging standard if you're reading the book on that. On lighting aspect of things, I've been buffing up my skills on Vectorworks and Lightrite. I went over to the Long Beach Playhouse, and I know the technical director there very well. He's a good man named Larry. And Larry was able to let me come in and volunteer, me and a couple other people. Donnie, I think you had him on last week.
Yes, I did. Yes, we had Donnie Jackson on. Yeah,
Donnie Jackson and I, and then also a couple of other people, one of your classmates, I believe, and a couple friends of mine. We went in there and we fully stripped the entire lighting grid. We cleaned every fixture in there. We continuity tested and voltage tested all of the cable. We standardized the lengths and labels, and then we took measurements of the space. So I drafted it in Vectorworks, I drafted a plot, and then we rehung, refocused, and regelled it, and we cabled it so that it was clean.
Nice.
Thank you. That's been the biggest project, apart from a cash gig here or there that I've been able to find, like a couple of set strikes. But that's been the biggest, most fun project for me because I was actually able to test a lot of new skills and be able to produce a very nice final product for them to hand it off to other lighting designers who will walk in and say, hey, this is our rep plot now. And I like that I get to say that I helped work on the new rep plot.
For sure, definitely. That's amazing. That's good. You can, be able to do that and, have in this time of, being at home and being able to do that still, and doing what you love to do. That's great. How'd you get into theater and line design?
So I started off, like I said, doing video production. Back when I was at Renaissance, there was a production course in video production. And the Office of Multimedia Services, OMS for short, had an office on site. And
yes, there still is.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Is Ray Blanton? No, not Ray Blanton. Ray Sharp.
I don't know who's there now, but possibly. You're good.
It's okay. Back then, we had the video production classes you could take as a student, and then you can move up into the ROP courses. ROP courses were after school, so that was more of the infield. You go and you find segments, then you edit, and you do things from there. You do like news test stuff. Did that for 3 years, and then in my 4th year, I decided, okay, I've done the video aspect of it. I kind of know where I'm at with this. I want to try something different, so I joined Upstage Crew. And very quickly, I kind of found my niche behind the console, and I learned that I really liked playing with the Express and figuring out how that worked. It was a wild, fun time of like getting in there. I was allowed to go in there at lunch too, so I would just go in there and play with a lighting rig and figure out how to make cues and like figure out how blind work and effects. And it was just a fun time.
Yeah.
Figured out that I really liked the amount of pre-work that you have to do in lighting in order to be able to relax and press go and have all of your culmination of a look happen simultaneously. Live sound, I've done that a few times as well, and that was way more frantic and way more like you're on it every second and you're never ending. I didn't like that as much as I liked lighting. Lighting, for some reason, it grabbed me. I was able to see my results faster. I was able to change something, and you can create a mood. You can kind of pull things together or draw focus wherever you want it to. And just the ability to leave that all behind so that all you have to do is press one button and everything starts to flow from there was pretty challenging, but pretty I like that challenge. So that was cool.
Yeah. That's I think you're right. You're about lighting is it's a lot of work in beginning, and then it becomes less and less. I think with sound, live sound too, I think like you said is also more up and switch and stuff, and it's more of have better. They're both important, obviously, but I think lighting is good like that too.
And now we're talking like the most strict of strict, like theater, just follow the stage manager and press go.
Yeah.
When you're talking about concerts and things like that and busking, it's a whole different animal. And I've gotten into that too, where live lighting is its own animal. And that's a lot of fun, being able to just follow a band. You have no idea what song's going to play next, but you got to make something look good.
Yeah.
Keep rhythm. That's cool.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I know that. Live lighting's what is the difference between how's that differ from theater lighting?
So theatrical lighting, you have a tech rehearsal. You have a series, you have months of blocking, depending on your production schedule,
Yeah.
and you can know what's going to happen and where people are going to go. You work as a collaborative member of a team. Now, if you're on a large scale tour, you have the same aspect as a production lighting person, as a lighting designer. You can make the music to the song. If
Yeah.
you're just busking, which is called just showing up with a console or having a console in house and saying, okay, this is my lighting rig. I've got some looks in my pocket. I have some cool effects that I've pre-programmed and some fun things to do. I don't know the band though. And the band had a sound check that lasted maybe 15 minutes. And then they're going to play an hour set later in the night. And the first time you're hearing a lot of that music is sometimes when the band's playing in front of other people. So then it's your job to pick up the vibe and accent them, not overplay them. You don't want to take the focus away from them, but you need to be able to provide some kind of engagement. And it's a lot more, basically it's like playing the drums to light, but it's, I don't know, that's as simple as I can make it. Live lighting is more about timing. It's more about knowing what you want to feel and knowing how you want to get there and thinking on the fly. And sometimes a lot of happy accidents. You know, I don't work off of a cue stack when I'm doing a live lighting show. Maybe I'll have like a couple of looks here or here on a handle, and I'll just throw a fader up, and that's like my preset. But most everything I'm doing is this group at that position, this group at that effect, and I slowly bring things up via submasters called inhibitives that just like slowly take out the intensity. So you can preset things and then just have them roll in. It's like doing it on the fly.
Yeah.
Is what I would say.
Makes sense. That seems. I mean, is it? Do you prefer that to live to you prefer live than theater, or do you like which is better for you?
It's like comparing two different kids. You know, you can't say which one's your favorite. I definitely get more adrenaline out of doing a show live. That I've with a bunch of bands that I know. Sometimes I get a lot more finessed product though out of something that's theatrical, where you can actually take your time and think about your actions. With bands that you don't know, if you're not familiar with the artist and you don't know their music, there's no time to think really. You just have to feel and go. So it's like jazz versus baking, you know? Does that make sense? Because it's like they're the same kind of thing. I mean, I think I meant cooking versus baking, but you know what I'm saying. It's all improvisational. It's all there, or it's
for sure
a particular precise science in which you have planned as best you can and worked with a very long time in theater on that, depending on your productions, of course, because there are large tours that will spend weeks or months in pre-pro, and everything is time coded to where most of their stuff is off of console and it's set to a track. So when the track goes, they have certain cues that happen at certain second marks.
Let's see if we have any questions in the Facebook chat here. Doesn't look like it. We can move on to the next question. Have you ever designed lighting in a black box theater?
I have. At the Long Beach City College, there's a black box theater there. And we did a couple of student showcases there. We always had a couple of things. I don't think I actually can't remember any productions that I did. It was a very long time ago. They're all college, so it's like kind of hazy. But I've worked in the black box before.
Do you prefer black box to proscenium?
They're different. Again, I like the ability to control the angles of a proscenium more. If a black box is done, and if the black box is done in 3/4, as most of ours was, it certainly limits your options as far as needing to provide front light or face light at all times, unless you're going for a really moody production. If you have a very moody production, you can still make some really cool effects and really cool designs. Prosceniums with fly rails, though, that definitely, I love that for the ability to hang a grid quickly and to be able to work fast. In working off of scaffolding is super fun, but unless you've got really skilled electricians or you're doing it all yourself and you're rolling around on the floor, it takes more time.
For sure.
I kind of, I like them both for their own challenges.
Exactly. What is the most challenging thing about design in general?
Making something look good for other people that you're happy with. I think that other people will say that looks like what I want it to look like, because you're working for the director. You're working for yourself, but you're working for the director. It's their artistic vision, so you have to work alongside everyone else in order to add to their element as well. You know, you're not the star of the show, you are a part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most difficult thing is probably just being able to work your vision into what theirs is and understand your role within that structure.
Yeah.
There's a structure of authority and a structure of, what's the word I'm looking for? Chain of command. That's what I forgot to say. There's a chain of command involved in all production.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was younger, I had a very hard time understanding that and knowing where and what I could and should not be doing. Learning that has been one of the more difficult parts.
That's important. And, you know, it's important to know, you know, from the beginning, you know, that, you know, there are people, you know, ahead of you, on top of you on the chain, and people below, you know. I mean, you know, every job is important, obviously, but I think, you know, that comes into play where, you know, there are stages, you know, in a way. We have a question. You said you started in video. Have you dabbled in projection mapping?
I haven't actually. I haven't dabbled in projection mapping, but I'm really excited and interested in doing so, because through QLab, you can do some pretty amazing things. And what I've seen out of the productions that have rolled through the venues is that more and more, a lot of the cool tricks that they're pulling off on these large scale tours are projections. They're large scale projectors, or they're massive video walls in which is a lot of content going on that way. So I definitely think that's where the industry will eventually lead to. Lighting will always have its angle, but I definitely want to learn more about projection mapping. Haven't played with it yet.
I've not no, but I mean, I know didn't QLab add that recently, and didn't they add that recently? I thought I saw that's cool.
It's been around for a minute on QLab. It's a very powerful tool for storytelling, I think. I definitely like the idea. I've always liked the idea of being able to project an image upon scenery. Mm-hmm. And as the scenery moves, I mean, you have a different image lined up for that, and you can use one white set piece and it can become anything you want. Or you can use it. There's a lot of different ideas that I've had about projectors. I just haven't had the access to the projectors to play with them yet. Yeah, but I have since we're on quarantine, getting one of those little home ones and just shooting it on the wall. And how that works.
That'd be cool. Yeah. The second part of the question was, what hardware/software would you recommend for video?
Okay, so for video, I did all of my editing off of Final Cut. Now, this was pre-Final Cut X. I might take a controversial standpoint right here and say Final Cut X is not my favorite. Don't like iMovie. It's simple, it's great, but I learned on Final Cut Pro 7. That's an old one. It probably still used some places, though. I haven't done video editing in a while. I've heard that Premiere video software is actually very good for video editors this day. So I would look into Final Cut, whatever they're doing currently, see if you can get your hands on an old Pro version prior to X, because I think in X they lost a lot of their usability and a lot of their
so too, yeah.
A lot of the more advanced tool sets.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
In Premiere video is what I hear people are using primarily as far as editing.
Yeah, I did hear that people do not like Final Cut as much now as they did, you know, X, because they've lost some touch with it. I think some features and all that.
Yeah. There's a lot. It also depends on what you want to do as far as video goes. I mean, I'm talking strictly about editing.
Yeah.
Importing raw footage, then cutting it together and making a story out of that. If you're looking to do more projection stuff, I would highly recommend QLab. QLab is the standard for theatrical design when it comes to sound, and I think is very quickly becoming the same for projection.
Yeah. Oh wait, you want to go in more detail of what QLab is, if people who don't know what that is?
Oh yeah, sure. If people don't know what QLab is a Mac-based software. I don't believe it's currently running on Windows. I might be wrong about that. But it's a Mac-based software where you can create a cue list, like a stage manager would have a prompt cue list of a book in front of them where they say, okay, this is this for sound. Now, those of us who are old enough to remember when we had to scroll back on tapes or on CDs, I guess now we're using MP3s, and just find certain time codes and say, okay, on this track at this second, I have doorbell sound effect. On this track at this sound, I have people walking through the park. And remembering the frantic nature of managing multiple input sources and trying to have them all lined up and then using your different levels to create a balance and create a soundscape that way, that part of the game is slowly starting to get phased out and being replaced by this thing called QLab. QLab is something where you can have a linear sequence of audio cues that fade in or fade out or abruptly start or abruptly stop and happen in time. So when the stage manager calls sound X go, you hit go, and whatever you've programmed for that sound cue will go. You don't have to scroll through a tape and find it anymore. And it's pretty impressive because you can do delayed things like with lighting. If you press go once, you can fire 7 cues of different timings. If they have delays or if they have auto follows, you can do that with QLab as well. So you can have stacks of things playing to create a very complex soundscape. A friend of mine, Jessica Westerfield, was very, very good at that. She created incredible sound, and it just kind of felt like you were in space immediately. But she used QLab for that, and I was always very impressed with what she was able to do.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. What what did I say? Sorry, I'm blanking. I think we still have the Express board at Renaissance, the board you mentioned earlier, the ETC Express. Yes. I think it's in Miss Thrasher's room now because she has a little theater in there too now, which we put lights up. We have a little grid, which is cool.
Yeah, I remember she brought me in to take a look at her LEDs and those LED controls that she has. You guys have the Express 4896, I believe, which is a great board. It's the one. I think it's the first board. Yeah, that's the first lighting board I ever did. That exact one, actually.
That's what you said, I think, earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, I have my initials carved somewhere in there, I think.
I should go look when I get back to school.
I think I should have said that. Oops. But yeah, somewhere on there, I think I've signed it.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah. Do you have a favorite lighting console you've used in the past?
Yes. I have a few. So lighting consoles are like soundboards. Now, if you're an audio engineer, you'll understand that you have some that you like more than others. Now, I don't understand the complexities of the sound and all the travel and all that. There's an argument
for sure.
Analog.
Yeah.
When it comes to lighting, like sound, they all kind of do the same thing, right? They all control lights, but the way that they do that and the way that you work with them is vastly different from system to system. My favorite console for live lighting currently is the Grandame Full Size Series 1. Series 1 only because it has more buttons on it and I know it better than the Series 2. I've been learning the Series 2, but I haven't had as much hands-on time with the 2. I've been using it off of my computer. And I've been able to achieve some pretty cool stuff, but the Series 1 and I just always got along because it has the really cool keys. Like it has those little DOS keys that like very tactile click. Like if you used an Express, or actually if you used an ETC Insight, that hard click that you get out of the sound, that sound, that sound, just for some reason, those keys travel really well with me, and it has a ridiculous amount of faders. They're all motorized. The strings always made sense, and they're really cool tricks that you could pull off with that board for live lighting. Like there are two faders on it that you could instantly set like manual timings for any preset position or any executor button you wanted. And that was awesome for me.
That's cool.
Like, oh my God, I can just like in 5 seconds or 1 second. You don't have to. You don't have to build a macro that tells you the certain things. Prior to ETC's recent work, you didn't have a manual timing fader on the ETC board, so you would have to record macros that said, okay, these things now all happen in this time or this time or this time. Manage. So for concerts, love the Grandame 1. Still my favorite. For theatrical, I am currently a fan of ETC EOS software. I mean, always have been. I learned how to run an Ion back when I was at City College. And it's only gotten better since then. There are different boards in which you can use it on. I love the EOS TI, if I'm being honest, because it's a giant desk. You have 2 onboard screens, 10 motorized faders, and an entire encoder section where you can see displays of all of your gobo wheels, of all your color palettes.
Oh yeah, I've seen. At Wilson High School, they have the ETC Ion. Yeah, with the 2, which is nice.
Ion is one thing, but the TI is like the granddaddy. So like there's different levels to it. There's the Ion, there's the Geo, and then I think it goes to Geo at 5, Geo at 10, or whatever. And then the EOS. The EOS TI though is like the flag, like the best one, the biggest one at least, as far as amount of controls and as far as onboard selection. It also has a really nice selection for your snapshots or your macros, whatever you want to run it off of. It's really a sweet console. But theatrically, ETC, I think right now has the best QSAC system and one of the best color engines on the market. We're a little behind, in my opinion, on effect building, but that's just a different kind of thing. But you can do stuff with them. It's more difficult to run a show live off of an ETC console for me than off of an MA. That's why I prefer.
And I Renaissance we have the Philips Neo Strand, which Mr. Rivera does not prefer. But the software on that, the software is not great. I think that's why she didn't like it.
The Neo. Now I don't know anybody. I know one person I think who knows how to run a Neo well. I'm serious.
Oh,
And
wow.
when I talked to him about it, because I had questions about that board, because we were trying to go in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
We got those moving lights working.
Yes,
We got
yeah,
the
exactly.
DL 1100s
Yeah.
actually running, which, fun note, they require a separate dimmer for their lamp source.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
So
why
they
you had
require,
trouble because Moose was trying to figure it out, and we were like, "What's happening?
yeah.
What's going on?"
Yeah, so I didn't realize that because I never worked with that fixture before. But then I looked at it and I realized, okay, there's a power con here and there's just a bare end whip. So we just put a L6 connection on that. And after I called the manufacturer to confirm I wasn't going to blow anything up, he's like, no, absolutely, you have to run an off-board dimmer source because the model that we have doesn't have an on-board dimmer and doesn't have a little ballast unit that came
Oh,
with it.
wow.
So you have to run 2 circuits of power, one non-dim power for the actual components of the light itself, and then one just straight up dimmer just to control the lamp. Well, we got them working. So those are cool.
Good. That's good. Yeah.
The Strand Neo is not, in my opinion, very user-friendly. I'm sure if you've learned it, there's some amazing things you can do with it, and it's wonderful. I'm sure there are people who swear by it. A big thing for me when it comes to console or any kind of software is customer support.
Yes.
I called for like a week straight, and I know Jessica called maybe for like 6 months to a year and looked through the manual and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of the questions that we had, we didn't get answers to off of that console.
They don't have videos because the board, the soundboard we have, the QR5 has tons of videos Yamaha made, and they don't have anything. I looked too, and it's like they have nothing.
That's another thing that I like about MA or ETC. ETC has an excellent series of educational videos. You can currently go online and train on Ion software for free, level 1, 2, and 3, which goes to some pretty advanced topics. And if you learn that stuff very fluently, then you can walk in and program a show. How fast you'll be will be up to you, but you can learn those consoles for $15 a course. MA has a bunch of stuff online for free on Series 2 software, and it's great and it's really useful. You can go from there. They give you the basics, but you can build off of that, Neo, there was very little to no support that I could find as far as video tutorials, and without having a conversation with somebody about very specific topics through it, it wasn't something I was able to pick up quickly. But I've learned a lot of consoles. I've learned Martin consoles, I've learned Avolites consoles, I've learned MAs, I've learned EOS.
Have you used the Hog 4?
I have used the Hog 4. Hog 4 and I are all right. Yeah. I fight it more than I love it, but I've used it for a couple of festivals because it's what the promoter had. And
wait, that's ETC, right? That's ETC Hog, right?
Currently, yes, it was high-end systems. Okay. But ETC merged or bought high-end systems, I think, a year or two ago, and now it is currently under their family. But prior to that, they were competitors, high-end system manufacturers, lights and consoles.
Okay, interesting. Cool, nice. Let's see. I think we're going to start to wrap it up here, guys. But a few more final questions. Just random question: have you seen Hamilton, and what do you think of the line design for that show?
I have seen Hamilton. I saw it at the Pantages about 2 years ago. It was with the touring production. I thought it was wonderful. The lighting design was very intricate and very well developed. And for those of you who don't already know, ETC is actually programmed and sent out a thing through.
I saw that on Instagram.
If you want to learn how to do the production lighting design aspect of things, I highly recommend that. You get a massive book full of all of the focus charts, full of all of these informational things that you can learn and dissect and reverse engineer and pick up a lot of information out of it. And what they've done with the augmented is quite spectacular.
Yes, that's amazing. Guys, go check that out. That's really great information. Thank you for that. That's amazing. I saw it too on Disney Plus. I think it's funny because every time I see a show now, I comment, I think of the technical aspect, since I've been, I'm a techie, so it's like you have to think of that. But I thought the line design was really, really spectacular too. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to promote for yourself, or anything you want to wrap up?
Self-promotion. I'm actually a very bad lighting designer in the fact that I don't have a website that I can show you all of my work that I've done. That's something that I recommend anybody who wants to do this kind of thing. Have a portfolio, have a website. Everything you do, take photos of it, log it, write down what year it was, make sure you know where it was, know who your directors were, because when you're building a resume, those are very important things. I have not been the best at documenting this, so going forward, I will be. But having that book or having that website that you could just show somebody speaks volumes about A, your documentation skills and organizational talent, and B, just shows them visually what you can do. And then you will find more work from that because people are ready to work with somebody who's ready to work.
Exactly. Do you have any social media people can follow you on, or anything like that? Okay.
No, I'm kind of a dinosaur. I don't really have Instagram. I barely have a Facebook.
Yeah, that's you're good, no problem. But thank you guys. Thank you again for tuning in today on Tech Talk with Ethan, and thank you again, Robert, for this amazing interview, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody has any questions, feel free to find me. I think I'm the only Robert Richardson. Feel free to find me on Facebook and shoot me a direct message if you have any questions.
Thank you.